You've all demanded that I answer your questions. This isn't a scandal. This is an AMA. What are your thoughts on ETH long term? Do you think the NFT scene is a craze or here to stay? So that second question I'll start with in that I think certain parts of the whole NFT thing were definitely a fad and definitely a bubble, but I don't think that NFTs are going anywhere. I think the technology and the idea is probably here to stay. Also, given that we are in crypto and I've seen things like this happen over and over again with altcoins, I'm sure we will have a whole new craze of NFTs and a whole new bubble to pop in the future. And as far as ETH goes long term, I would like to have an ETH validator. I do have some generally positive thoughts about it. That said, I don't really have much of a position in Ethereum. There are a few things with Ethereum that scare me. There is tons of Ethereum all staked right now in validator nodes and on different platforms, and all that ETH can currently not be unstaked. And very soon, or maybe they delay it, I don't know, the code will be changed and the ability to withdraw your ETH will be enabled. And then depending on what the market's doing, what the sentiment in crypto is, we might have a situation where a bunch of people freak out because they've had their ETH locked up for 1, 2, or more years, and they're desperate to sell before they think ETH is going to crash even more. So we might see how Ethereum handles a bit of a bank run. Not just that, but unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum is much easier to change the rules. And when it comes to things like the rewards and the interest that is paid out, yet Ethereum changes itself on the daily to becoming deflationary. I have questions about where those rewards actually come from. And I have read thread after thread and read explain it like I'm 5 posts, and it still goes over my head a little bit. So either it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo crazy words and there's not actually anything sound to it, or I'm just not grasping it yet and I need to spend more time researching it. But the bottom line with Ethereum is that it's been here this long. It would be classified as an altcoin, but I think given its track record so far, it maybe can graduate itself above that designation and be something else in the crypto space. There's also quite a few very smart people that I know and talk to about it and have good discussions back and forth with about it that really love it and have gone really big on it. And when it comes to stuff like that, then I go, what am I missing? Maybe I need to be in this thing a little bit more. So I don't know. The jury for Andy, at least on Ethereum, is still out. I'm still weighing that one, but I think likely I will exit this bear market with quite a bit more Ethereum position than I currently have. But who knows? Roland asks, I have a sneaky question for my very best friend, Andy. Hi, Roland. If you have waited for today's miner prices, would you be more profitable? Did you earn enough money to cover the difference in prices? Well, in hindsight being 2020, because we can always look backwards with that perfect clarity. Yeah, I did probably overpay for my miners. However, long term, I think it probably does not matter. But also a portion of my miners, almost half of them, were purchased with money I had sitting in Anchor Protocol. I took half that money out to buy my miners, and then a couple months later, the rest of the Anchor money went to zero. So on one hand, I could have bought my miners cheaper if I waited. On the other hand, I would have lost all of my Anchor money if I hadn't done that. But I will say that today's Bitcoin miner prices is pretty attractive. And also, it's not a question of profitability because the day-to-day doesn't change depending on what you spent on the miner. The day-to-day profitability depends on electricity costs, the Bitcoin mining difficulty, and the price of Bitcoin. Cost of miner just affects your break-even time. How would the economies of the East and West be affected by a war? And what long-term economic consequences could be expected? Sir, I am a YouTuber. This is a big question for someone like me. How have you maximized your spending over the past 3 years? Have you opened new credit cards and earned points and miles for free travel? I definitely haven't maximized it in that I'm spending every dollar that I make. If anything, I've gotten better about where those dollars go. But if you're asking specifically about the credit card angle, well then yes, I do maximize those. I have opened up new cards in the past couple of years. For example, for one of my businesses, I did just open up a new Chase Business Inc. card, which I believe gives me about 60 to 80,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points if I spend $15,000 within 3 months. Now, it's a business card, and in that business, that's a pretty easy expense for me to do, so I have maximized that. I am earning those rewards. In the past, I've done lots of other things like that, and I've done lots of free travel. I think if you can get a credit card and you can pay it off at the end of every month, you can use it very responsibly, well, then it's a lot of money sitting on the table for free that you should take advantage of. But that's just me. Dave Ramsey, for example, would not agree with me. He'd be screaming at me over the microphone right about now.
You have nothing
Action Crypto asks, do good looks interfere with your ability to create passive income streams? Thank you, my friend. And no, it does not interfere at all. If anything, it helps. How have you structured your investments to offset the rampant inflation? And the really short, simple, and maybe even a little bit boring answer to that is simply that I invest most of my money. More specifically, and a little spicier, is I put most of my money into Bitcoin. And people left and right on Twitter say, well, it's proven that it wasn't a good hedge against inflation. However, I think that most of those people don't zoom out quite far enough. Has it been a great hedge against inflation in the past year? Well, maybe not, but my Bitcoin investment is still up well over 200% since the time I started investing, and that has more than beaten inflation. So longer term, it has been a great hedge against inflation for me at least. But if you bought at all-time high $69,000 Bitcoin from this last cycle and you're still holding it right now and you haven't added any, then no, that doesn't look like a very good hedge against inflation to me either. Lauren asks, what's your why? And that is a very big question, and I guess I could answer that any number of ways. But since I'm recording this video to put this video on YouTube, I'll kind of answer the why of that whole thing. I'm somebody who had very dicey financials, paycheck to paycheck, loads of debt, really stressed about money, and was able to turn that around in a relatively short amount of time and become pretty close to, if not already there, financially free. And some of the inspiration and motivation for doing that was the things that I watched on YouTube, the books I read, the other inspiring stories that I watched and read. And so this whole YouTube thing certainly has a business angle to it. I wasn't naive going into it. I definitely thought from day one, how would I monetize this? How would I turn this into a business? But the bigger reason why I want to do this is because I'm just hoping that I can convince a couple of you, one or two of you, to just change your entire financial trajectory. If you're paycheck to paycheck, have a bunch of credit card debt, and you don't know what to do, and you just watch a couple of my videos and you get a couple ideas, or you just hear my story and you get inspired to go do your own thing, whatever that looks like, then I will call this whole thing I'm doing a job well done and mission accomplished. And then if in the process of doing this, I get to make some money, I get to have some fun, and I get to do something I really enjoy doing every day, well then, all the better, right? What's a typical day in your life look like? Probably not very exciting by most people's standards. I've never been a particularly early riser. I've always been a bit of a night owl, but that has changed in the recent months. Typically wake up around 8 a.m. Got to get the coffee in me as soon as possible so I can turn into a real human being instead of some kind of sleep monster. Then first thing in the morning, I do jump on Twitter and I write my tweets for the day. And then some point in the mornings, we will try to go for a walk with the dog around the neighborhood. And then it's usually straight into the mix of YouTube tasks. Write scripts, record videos, work on various things, chat with my buddy, video editor Greg. Somewhere in there before or just right after lunch, I do try to wedge in some reading time. I read lots of fiction, lots of sci-fi. Afternoons are typically the time when I do record a video. I've had a chance to wake up. My face doesn't look like I just drug it off the pillow. I've had time in the morning to write my script. And then once all the work is done for the day, once the focused work hours are complete, then it's just whatever. Some days it's hanging out with friends, some days it's working more, other days we'll watch a TV show or a movie here at the house. Sometimes I use those hours to do some crypto things, spin up a new node, check out this other thing, do some project research. And then at night, it's usually just boring stuff like wrapping up and getting ready for bed by 10:30 to 11:30, somewhere in there. Or on a couple of nights of the week, 1 or 2 nights, I do have a really good friend of mine who I will play a couple of video games with, like Dota 2. Or lately we've been playing Hell Let Loose, which has been a lot of fun. And then that's it. Rinse, repeat the next day. Is it profitable to run a Flux node right now? Yes, it is. My Flux nodes are still kicking ass and doing a great job in my passive portfolio. Thoughts on Sphere Finance? I honestly have not been in that Discord in months. I just have my Sphere tokens. I haven't touched them. I haven't sold any since the day I bought them and made my Sphere video. I think they're worth like 60% less than when I first bought them. But I do hear rumblings that there is some exciting stuff going on there. So honestly, it's just kind of one of those things that I thought the idea was cool, that the people behind it were cool. So I just bought some and I had no plans to do anything with it for a while. Couple years plus. If you could give up your entire net worth to wind back the clock and go back 10 years, would you do it? Yes, in a heartbeat if I could take all my current know-how and knowledge with me. But if I couldn't do that, then I don't think I would do that, because I'd probably just end up in the same place here, and I've already done those things, and I'm really excited about the future. I want to do new things, new experiences, new ventures, new investments. What do you say to those people who think crypto is a scam? Hello, Steve. I would tell them that if they think all of crypto is a scam, then that's like saying because you lost some money on a stock, the entire stock market is a scam. I think extremism like that is very dangerous, no matter which topic or which category or which niche you are talking about. But I would say in the crypto realm, if you think there are scams out there, well, then I would agree with you that there is a lot of that going on. But there's also a million different scams going on with the US dollar and other things. There's scams everywhere in every conceivable variety. So of course, scams and malicious intent is going to find its way into the world of crypto. So I think what I'd say to the people who say that and generalize like that, I would try to gently challenge them to maybe think a bit more critically about that statement, while also, on the other hand, maybe proposing that they view the opportunity of crypto at the same time. So looking back to the time when the internet is finally gaining steam, there were a million various scam things, shady things, whatever, in the .com era, but there were certainly a bunch of gems and world-changing technologies and companies that came out of that as well. And if you did experience something where you lost money or a scam or whatever, and you gave up, well, then you missed out on all that opportunity. So I try to encourage people that if they have been affected by a scam or they've lost money, to not give up, but maybe not to immediately just start dumping money blindly. Pull the brakes on putting money into it and spend the time instead of researching and learning. And maybe you come to the conclusion that this isn't the future and it's not for you, and that's fine. Or maybe you're like me and you go, this is the future. We have the internet, so we need the internet of money, and then you can dive in deeper, get more conviction, invest your money, do whatever you want. How did your financial journey start? What has been your favorite part? So I've talked about it on Twitter, and I've talked a little bit about it on my YouTube channel, but I was age 29 with no investments, not making that great of money, nearly 6 figures of credit card debt, just, paycheck to paycheck, super stressed out. And eventually just enough of the stress had accumulated in my brain case, and I just kind of decided I don't want to do this anymore. So I started learning about personal finance. The first book I read was I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Do I agree with everything that Ramit says now? No, not necessarily, but that book was very helpful to get me started. And then I slowly climbed my way back out of the muck and mire, earned more money on the side, paid off the debt, learned about investing, opened my first Roth IRA, all that good stuff. And that's what paved the way and built the foundation for where I am today. And as far as my favorite part, I mean, it's just the fact that I did it. It's really easy when you're stuck in all that to just really believe that that's the end of it. That's the end of the road, that there's nothing else, there's no helping you. But I had the realization that my finances weren't something that was happening to me, that they were actually something I could control. And that was a very powerful thought. But even if there are things happening to you, you still can control your thoughts, and that alone is super powerful, and that you can start changing the direction, trajectory of your life. So I'm just excited that I was able to do these things and able to turn things around, and that I, might have done it later than some people, but at least I still did it way earlier than others, and so for that, I am very grateful. Isn't crypto mining simply just distributed cloud computing, similar to how there are giant cloud server facilities all over the world? Discuss. Well, there are certainly similarities in that, a data center is a collection of a bunch of computers with processors, and they're there doing compute tasks, and there's a bunch of electricity flowing into it. And there is certainly an analog there in some of the bigger mining facilities where they are a centralized location, a bunch of machines all in one place. They're all doing compute tasks, and they're burning a bunch of electricity. However, each data center around the world is typically owned by a specific company or some kind of data center or whatever by one entity, and they're not all collectively, wherever they are across the world, working on the same tasks. There might be a data center over here, and it's owned by some kind of website host, and that's mainly just hosting a bunch of WordPress websites or something. And then there's the Amazon Web Services data center number 372 over here, and it's got a million different tasks going on: website building, rendering stuff, AI things. So each of these data centers, they are centralized pockets of compute where what's going on in each location is relatively the same, or at least owned by the same entity. Bitcoin mining, however, is a bunch of locations around the globe, and they are all globally working on the same thing, which is the Bitcoin blockchain. So there are certainly pockets of centralization to this process because there are individual facilities, but there are thousands or hundreds of thousands of those spread out all over the entire globe, and they are all globally working on the same thing. So, I mean, I could go into that even deeper, but that is the short version of one of the bigger differences I would see between the two. It's a lot of questions for me, but I've got a question for you. Do you want to earn more money? If so, you should watch this video of a really cool money-making opportunity that I think more people should be paying attention to right now. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.